It's about this week for us. We're playing someone that we're highly familiar with. They're also highly familiar with us. It'll be a third time that these two teams have come together. We'll do it in their venue. And so there's a lot of work ahead of us in preparation for performance. I don't find comfort in the familiarity. If anything, it just provides depth to the strategic waters, if you will. And so we're proceeding with that understanding. For us, it's important that we take the lessons learned from the last month. Unfortunately, you probably learn more when there's failure, and obviously we've experienced some of that. Some of it not jaw-dropping things or earth-shattering things, more confirmation of things that we believe in or things that we engineer victory by. We suffered the consequences of not winning the turnover to battle in recent weeks, and that's been very evident. We've also suffered the consequences of not performing to our standards in the red zone, offensively and defensively. And oftentimes your ability to win possession downs within those situations define you, that 4-point swing. During that four-game stretch, we weren't strong enough defensively in that area, and we certainly weren't strong enough offensively in that area. Although on Saturday night, I thought we did make some hay in that regards on defense. Our ability to keep Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, and company out of the end zone was a major component of us staying in that football game and having a chance to win. As we talked about last week, Joe and company, I think Joe had thrown at least 3 touchdowns in every game over the second half of the season, and our ability to hold him and that collective to 1 touchdown in play was why we were close, why we had the ball and a chance to win at the end. In regards to dreaming about the next 4 weeks, for us, I certainly want us to have belief in self, but I just don't want us to waste a whole bunch of time in it. The next four weeks will be defined by a string of nows, our ability to focus on task at hand, to win moments, to prepare with an edge, to be hyper and singularly focused. And so that's what our intentions will be as we lock in on this week's prep. From a health perspective, a couple things to update. Cam Hayward obviously is sick. I think he stated so after the game. Gave him the day off, man, in an effort to put that behind him so it doesn't affect his preparation as we lean in on this game. Mason McCormick has a broken hand. He'll be sized for a cast and or a brace and check functionality there. And so his participation and the quality of his participation will kind of be an indication of his potential availability as we push forward. Dante Jackson was held out last week with ongoing back issues. He feels good this morning, but again, we'll watch him throughout the course of the week and see what his participation does in terms of the possibility of his inclusion. And then there's some other bumps and bruises associated with play that may affect some people at the early portions of the week, but I don't think will be a major factor when it comes to dividing the labor up and determining who plays and who doesn't at the latter part of the week. Now on to Baltimore. I'll start with their defense. Like we talked about last time we came together, I've seen a tremendous sea change in some of the things that they're doing over the second half of the year. It looks very familiar. We talked about Dean Pease, man, and his inclusion in their efforts and how it has impacted their efforts, and it's very evident, to be quite honest with you. They remain aggressive schematically, but they do so while being prudent. They're using a lot of bogus pressure, and that's a signature of Dean Pease football. They'll show the semblance of pressure, but still distribute 7 in coverage, and that minimizes some one-on-one matchups on the back end and minimizes the potential for big plays, and I think that's a significant change for them between the first half of the year and the second half of the year. Their ability to minimize big plays in the passing game has been a big component of their upswing defensively. Since week 11, they're number 1 in the league in passing yards per game, and that just speaks to some of the things that they've done schematically, but also some of the things that they've done from a division of labor perspective in terms of how they've divided their labor up and how they've utilized their most significant people. In particular, Humphreys, Hamilton, and Roquan, if you look at what they're doing schematically, particularly in weighty moments, almost always the onus of the playmaking falls on those three on the back end. They do as good a job as anybody in the NFL in terms of distributing responsibility to their most significant players. And over the course of the second half of the season, those guys have delivered. Can't say enough about Marlon Humphreys and the playmaking that he's made for them over the second half of the year. He's been significant in both of our ball games. He had a big interception that made it really close in the ball game here in Pittsburgh. Obviously, he had a pick six that broke the game open in Baltimore. But he did similar things against the Cincinnati Bengals, had late turnovers in both of those games that allowed him to win both of those games in a shootout-like fashion. Kyle Hamilton, man, since they moved him back to safety, has been really solid, doing a nice job keeping a lid on it. Is good down in and around the line of scrimmage as well, a good blitzer, a good run game tackler. He's got a really good skill set. And then obviously Roquan is the defensive quarterback. They've played a lot of linebackers over the second half of the season in terms of his partner, but he has been a consistent guy. He's in every package of defense. He's their green dot. He's a high-volume tackler. He's good versus the run. He's good versus the pass. He's good at mirroring the quarterback. They're doing similar things with Kyle Hamilton in the secondary in terms of some of their man-to-man things, allowing him to mirror the quarterback also in longer yardage stances. I think all of that has created an opportunity where they're keeping a lid on it. They're making the quarterbacks process more. It's giving their rushing opportunity to be significant. 5'3" and 99, both guys have been really significant in terms of their ability to get after the quarterback. 92 as well on the interior. They're playing more behind a four-man rush maybe than the early portions of the season, but it's risk playing behind the pressure. And like I mentioned, they gave up some big plays early. They minimized some of that. The four-man rush has been effective. The combination of things that they're doing in terms of the distribution of seven in the effort to aid that rush has been impressive and successful as well. Since week 11, as I mentioned, man, they're number one in points per game. They're number one in pass defense. They're number one in red zone touchdown percentage. And when you're doing those things, man, you're going to be positioned to win a lot of football games. Coupled with what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball, there's no surprise that they're one of the hottest teams in football. On the offensive side, man, it's about 8-22 for us or for anyone, to be quite honest with you. Lamar's play has been spectacular. He's been very good with the ball. He's been good in the passing game. He's been good in the running game. He's been good at play extension with very little negativity. There's been very little negativity on their tape in general over the second half of the season. They don't turn the ball over. They don't have a whole lot of negative yardage plays. That keeps them on schedule. And when you have that tandem and you're on schedule, you're going to score some points. And they do. I think they're number 3 in scoring. They're number 1 in red zone touchdown percentage. Quarterback mobility is a major component of that. Coupled with the relationship that he has with his tight ends. Can't say enough about the tight end production from Andrews and Likely, particularly Andrews. Lamar's worked with him the totality of his professional career. They're draft mates, and, man, you see that continuity, the benefits of that continuity. I think several weeks ago, Andrews broke a franchise record for receiving touchdowns, and that's also reflective of that relationship. On the perimeter, Zay Flowers is a matchup issue. He's good with the ball in his hands. He's good in terms of run after. He's quick to speed. He's got really good top-end speed. Bateman has emerged in a big way this year while staying healthy. He's provided a lot of splash for him. He's been a down-the-grass guy. Has made some significant plays, particularly in weighty moments, some 2-minute moments, particularly of late, in terms of making some splash one-on-one plays for Lamar and company. But again, if you're talking about these guys, it's about minimizing their run game and the uniqueness of their run game. They got a downhill runner who's a challenge himself alone, but you couple that with the zone read component of what they do and the special talents of Lamar, that is a full-time job. We got to be prudent about how we distribute our schematics. Certainly, when you play a group like this, it's about shedding blocks and making tackles. There's no substitute for that. Oftentimes, when you face quarterback design runs, it becomes a mathematic game of 11 on 11. And so someone has to whoop blocks and make tackles. That's just the reality of it. And so we'll focus our energies on some fundamental things this week in preparation for that, while at the same time working hard to find a schematic advantage in some of those scenarios as well. They got big-time continuity in special teams. They have for a long time. They got a mode of operation there. I would imagine the special teams component is going to be big in a game like this. It was the last time we came together. We had a ball on the ground, I think, very early in the game. In the punt game that we didn't recover, we had one later that we did recover and gave us an opportunity. And so we got to be on the top of our A game there and look to find an advantage if we can in that space. Got a lot of respect for the environment. Going to Baltimore, particularly in playoff football, is something to be respected, man. I expect it to be a hostile environment. I welcome that, to be quite honest with you. It's important that we smile in the face of that as a collective. It's just simply a tax to pay for not winning the division, and we pay that. But we're excited about the playmaking, the tangible things that will decide the outcome of this game. And we realize we got a short amount of time to prepare, and we're preparing with an edge. And we look forward to pitting our skills versus the Ravens on Saturday night. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, where was Henry having success last game? Where did he hurt you? And how difficult is focusing on him when you have a guy like Abe behind him? So.
You know, he functions in the way that he does most times. He's a big guy. He wears away at you over the course of the game. He's capable of breaking one late. I think he broke a 50-yarder on us late. He broke a big one just the other day late. He plays an attrition game while at the same time is capable of being a home run hitter. And so when you face someone with unique talents like that, it is a down in and down out agenda because of his home run hitting playmaking, but it's also a component of an attrition game. And we just got to make sure that we're doing a nice job of utilizing all the people at our disposal and exercising some of the fundamental things that I mentioned, like shedding blocks and getting additional ball carriers to the ball carrier so we're not in a whole bunch of one-on-one tackling scenarios.
Mike, you've been down multiple possessions early in each of the last 4 games. Why is it taking you guys so long to warm up to things?
You know, that's a good question. Some of it's had to do with some of the people that we played have done a nice job. Some of it has to do with us. Rest assured that we're working extremely hard to rectify it, and I'm excited about taking another whack at it this week.
Does it raise alarms about the game plans themselves? It's not so execution, but just the.
You know, I don't know that I use the term alarm, but certainly we're analyzing all components of it in an effort to remedy it.
Mike, you mentioned the improvement of the defense last week. Is there anything you've seen offensively that might turn into something over the last couple of weeks?
Certainly, but I don't know that I'm looking for comfort, to be quite honest with you. It's important that we own our ills and build a course of action in which to correct it, and then go about the physical labor of doing so. And so that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about carrying the baggage of the last 4 weeks. There's some lessons underneath it all for coaches and for players and for the collective. And for us to be successful this week, the fruit of those lessons need to be evident in the quality of our play. And, of course, schematics is a major component of that.
Mike, in the past, you've kind of rotated the quarterback position when you're looking for a spark on offense. How do you evaluate that position going into the playoffs, and is there a consideration of using Justin more?
I'm certainly open to utilizing Justin. He has an awesome skill set. We've done some of that in the past. We've done less of it in recent weeks. He experienced an injury or so a couple of weeks back that slowed some of that. But certainly in an effort to win this game, I am open to any combination or combinations of the division of labor in an effort to do so. And so I'm certainly open to that as we develop plans this week.
One thing that did seem to spark the offense the other night was Mike Williams with the catch down the sideline. Might we see more of him moving forward in the playoffs?
Certainly. And for us, it's not just about Mike, it's the playmaking. As I mentioned after the game, man, we didn't make enough routine plays in play. And for us to be the type of unit that we desire to be and the team that we desire to be, you got to make routine plays. Oftentimes, routine plays produce additional plays that could be spectacular. And so converting routine third downs, being on schedule, things of that nature allow us to possess the ball, to produce more opportunities for guys like Mike, who obviously has big play capabilities.
You mentioned their tight ends, and they were a red zone challenge last time you guys played Baltimore. And it's been kind of a volume challenge with Kelsey and Gesicki. Where do you guys need to get better at stopping the tight ends?
I think for us, it's about getting a conglomeration of people who do a good job communicating for us. And I think the overall trajectory of that has been on the upswing ever since we got Deshaun Elliott back in the lineup, and I expect that to continue.
Mike, it's been a few years since you guys have won a playoff game. What gives you confidence that this year's going to be different?
Because I work with this group every day. I'm excited about it. We're very familiar with this team. We know how to play this group. And so that's where our focus is as we get prepared for this one. What you mentioned is my story. It's not this collective story. Many of these guys involved do not tote those bags. I happily tote those bags, but it's not something that I'm going to project on the collective.
Mike, when you talk about learning lessons from losses related to those playoff losses, what lessons do you take from those in the last 4 years, particularly getting down big early in the first half?
To be honest with you, I hadn't spent a lot of time pondering that in the last 48 hours. I've been getting ready specifically for this game with this collective.
Mike, it looked like you put a lot of trust in Corey Trice against the Bengals. How did he do? I know he gave up the early touchdown, but after that, how did he do?
I thought largely he did some nice things, man. Corey's a hard-working guy. He doesn't have a lot of experience. It was really good experience for him, and it's reasonable to expect him to build upon that.
Mike, last week Cam Hayward was talking about at this stage in his career, nothing is guaranteed. Are you seeing ways on the practice field or the way he performed recently that there is a sense of urgency, and how much do you want to see him get the ultimate, reward?
I think I'd be misleading you if I talked about an increased sense of urgency as it pertains to Cam. Cam has been urgent since the day we drafted him, and I think that's why he's had the career that he's had. It's no secret in terms of producing a unique career. You need to have a unique approach, not only in terms of your talent, but what you're willing to do. And I think he's certainly reflective of that.
Mike, George has had 50 yards receiving in 2 games. Has the time off affected him at all, and how do you get him back to where he was a month ago?
I think certainly based on output, you could say that. And so I'm looking forward to him bouncing back and looking forward to us bouncing back with this next outing.
Some of the drops he had, is that just part of the game? You rarely ever see him do that.
No, you don't. But he did. And so, he has to own it. But he wasn't alone. As I mentioned after the game, we had several people that had very makeable plays, routine, if you will, like plays. And if you're going to be good, not only great, but good, you got to make routine plays routinely.
Mike, there was a camera shot of George being held back, exchanging words with a fan, Frameth holding him back. Is that a player in the heat of the moment, being frustrated, or does that speak to a little bit more of a discipline issue?
I have no idea what you're referring to, so that's news to me. So I'd be speculating if I commented on it in any way.
Mike, when you went back and look at the film, I think other than the 2-minute drill at the end of the half, you ran on every one of the 12 first downs until it was like 19-7. Right? Would you like to vary that more and not be so consistently doing that?
From a broader discussion, certainly, but we also had an agenda in that game, and that's oftentimes the things that you balance. A personality that you value, along with a specific agenda in an effort to create an environment that's conducive to winning a game, are things that we weigh from a planning perspective every day of our lives from a coaching standpoint.
Would you like to see the agenda shift a little more quickly? If you're in the third quarter, you've got 70 yards of total offense or whatever it is?
Certainly based on the outcome of our last performance, yes. But in terms of a vision, we make decisions. We do not live in our fears. We formulate plans to try to position ourselves to control the game. And sometimes it might be minimizing our exposure to Joe Burrow with how we play offensively. And so certainly based on the outcome, that judgment is open for discussion. But again, those decisions are complex.
You guys were one of the high, I think you were 4th in rushing attempts, but near the bottom in yards per carry. What made that something that you wanted to continue to be such a big part of your identity, even when it wasn't necessarily always working?
For us, it's about playing to a personality that we prescribe to engineer victory, to possess the ball. And a component of possessing the ball is not only time, but managing risk. And obviously, there's less risk with running the football than throwing it, and sometimes that's a component of the discussion as well.
How do you evaluate Russ's play over the last 4 games? Just the offense in general has not been as productive. How do you evaluate
I think it's reflective of all of our performances over the last month. It's been spotty at best, but again, during that time period, we've been 0-4, and so that's not an earth-shattering statement.
Has Russ shown you, what has he shown you in the last 4 weeks that tells you he's capable of providing a spark in a playoff game?
His approach to business day to day, first and foremost, certainly.
Post game, I know you were asked about going into the playoffs on a clean slate, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you said maybe that's not the best thing. Maybe we want to take lessons from what has happened in these past 4 games. What did you extract from that? What do you think the team has extracted from that to apply that to the postseason?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about in my opening, specifically regarding situational ball. The red zone component has been big for us. The turnover component has been big for us, big positively and negatively at different times during the course of the season. And really, if anything, the 4-week stretch has got confirmation of some of those agendas.
What has your past taught you about playing a team for the 3rd time this season, and does the compressed time frame here, 3 times in 9 weeks, heighten that in any way?
I don't know that it does. I just think the more familiar you are, the more significant the strategic component is. But as a coach, man, I welcome that. I want the responsibility of being a component of how this game unfolds and to try to stay a step ahead of them. I'm sure they have the same agenda regarding us. It doesn't get routine with each matchup. It gets more sophisticated, it gets more complex, and from a coach's perspective, more fun.
Anyone else?
Just one other thing on special teams. I know that with the kickoff rule being new, are you finding as it's gotten colder and things have gone along here in winter, has that affected some of the returns with the flight of the ball? Are you guys trying to adjust to that?
I don't know about globally. I know that there's been 7 kickoff returns in 2024 for scores as compared to 4 in 2023. But I hadn't studied the global component, if that's what you're asking, the global. If you're asking specifically regarding us, I don't know that the weather has affected our approach to it in terms of how we approached the concept in recent weeks.
Mike, does that mean this kickoff rule will stay the same next year with 7 touchdowns?
Hey, man, I have no agenda regarding committee issues at this time. I am singularly focused on preparing for the Ravens.
Mike, how much has Russ has been there, done that, intangibles come into play this week when you're on the road in Baltimore in a playoff game?
I certainly believe that it will, but it's not something that I hang my hat on or expect him to. It's just a component of his story, just like it's a component of Cam Hayward's story or anybody else that's been doing it at a high level for a long time.
Mike, you mentioned that you carry the bags of the past playoff stuff. When this collective goes into the playoffs on a cold streak, how does the coaching staff restore their confidence?
I don't know that it needs to be restored. I just think that we've been in too many battles and we've had too much success to be fragile in that way. We certainly can hate our recent performances and the outcome of those recent performances, but I don't think it's reflected in terms of how we feel about ourselves or our ability to make plays or engineer victory or win games.
Anyone else? All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
That said, Coach Mike Tomlin, Missy Matthews alongside here, Missy, and one of the things that he said right off the bat was that Mason McCormick has a broken hand, and we've seen guys play with casting on, so I would imagine it's not going to be something that would keep him off the field, although you never know how that goes. But the offensive line in general has not been as good over the last 4 weeks. One of the reasons why they haven't been able to get much in terms of a run game or a pass game. So they all need to be in there. I think when he is in there, he and Frazier as young guys have made pretty good strides this year.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's no rookie wall, it felt like, that they had ever hit at any point during the season. Obviously, heading into the wild card round, it's another game. But agree, I think, Coach Tomlin said with his broken hand in terms of Mason McCormick, they're going to fit him for a brace or a cast, see how it goes during practice. I just anticipate, based on his mentality, his physicality, that he won't care what they put on his broken hand. He's going to be out there and want to play in this one.
And we have seen players before come out with those big clubs in their hands and use them maybe to their advantage. One of the things we're seeing is a lot of running here, and one of the questions Mike Tomlin was asked, I think it's a good one in that they ran the ball on first down 12 straight times. While Obviously, they think that was something that could have worked against Cincinnati. It generally didn't. I know they want to be a physical team, but I think maybe some deviation, especially on first down, would help them moving forward in this game.
Yeah, and I think, also because of the lack of success that they were having at running the ball. It's one thing when you can get the run game going to continue doing it. You're draining the clock and doing things that you want to do. But when it wasn't working, I do agree, though, the whole thing about not making routine plays routinely. It just felt like everybody was having one of those days, from George Pickens to Russell Wilson to everybody, of not being able to create a spark and get this offense going. The defense, I thought, really turned around their performance from the previous three for this one. They got that touchdown early, but after that, I felt like being able to keep Joe Burrow from finding the end zone and making them kick field goals is a huge success against that team.
No question about it. And that's what kept them in the game to the point where they had a chance at the end to maybe get in a position to kick a Chris Boswell field goal. But we'll talk more about what the Steelers have not done and what they need to do and what the Ravens have done, and we'll try to continue to do, because that's the matchup. The Steelers right now are heavy underdogs in this game, 9.5. I don't ever remember a Baltimore-Pittsburgh game with that kind of a line, but perhaps that's a position that the Steelers will, say, okay, let's go, because we are underdogs. But if you look at the situation at hand, those two games, even the one in Baltimore, was a very close game until the pick six. And it became a 17-point game, but it really didn't feel like a 17-point game into the fourth quarter before that pick six.
Yeah, that unfortunately seemed to be the common, theme of those 3-game losses heading into this last one against the Bengals. At halftime, even with the Chiefs, you feel like you still have a chance, and then things start to go south. But it's becoming a pattern, and I think that's maybe what is playing into it, and the fact that the Ravens have just been running away since coming out of their bye week and, doing what they've done to close off the season. Kudos to them. That's one, you want to be playing your best football and want to get hot. I do think it's interesting with the Steelers and Ravens knowing each other so well. This is one of those intriguing matchups. I know we're biased when it comes to it, but these are two teams that typically you do throw the records out of the window when they meet each other. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, and the Steelers have had success against Lamar Jackson, although this Lamar Jackson has evolved into one of the best pocket passers in the game, in addition to what he does with his legs. And you throw Derrick Henry, and this is a tough assignment. There's no question about it. We're going to take a break, come back, and have more of what Mike Tomlin had to say and update some of the stuff that you may have missed, all coming up right here on KDK Plus and Steelers digital platforms.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era. I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Wait, you're T?
Russ, it appeared to be a different game plan this time, where you guys wanted to run the ball. Why the change, and did it just take too long to switch things up?
Yeah, I think that was our game plan kind of going into it, and, and just trying to establish our physical nature and everything else. The game kind of took a while for us to get going. It wasn't really to the fourth quarter. Our defense did a good job of keeping us in the game, making some plays against a high-powered offense and things they do well. I thought our defense, gave us a chance to win that game. Good thing is in the fourth quarter we responded the right way. We felt like we had a chance. We had 2 drives to help try to win the game. Unfortunately, we didn't get it done.
Why hasn't this offense been able to start?
Sorry, where you? Okay, sorry. Yep.
Why hasn't this offense been able to start consistently fast?
I don't really have I think what I want to say is I don't really want to talk about the past, just because I think, we've been in that. We've been in that for a little bit here. I think the best thing we can do is get ready for the playoffs. It's a new season. That's the only thing that really matters anymore at this point, right? Is the reality is no matter, obviously us winning that game would have helped us in some form or fashion, but at the end of the day, when you go into the playoffs, everybody's 0-0, you got to beat everybody anyway. And that's got to be our focus right now. It's been a tough few weeks, obviously. We thought we had a chance in this game. I love how we fought at the end of the game. The defense, like I said, made some great plays. Special teams, offensively, we came back, had a huge drive to make it a 1-score game. get the ball back. We had a chance to win it, you know, and that's what playoff football is going to be like. It's going to be intense. It's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be tough environments and everything else, and we're going to have to go on the road and get it done.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
And for us, it's not about being in the tournament. It's not about dreaming about the next month. It's not about pouting over the last month. It's about this week for us. We're playing someone that we're highly familiar with. They're also highly familiar with us. It'll be a third time that these two teams have come together. We'll do it in their venue. And so there's a lot of work ahead of us in preparation for performance.
Yeah, a lot of work, especially since the Steelers are right now in a 4-game losing streak. Not many teams ever have gone into the playoffs with 4-game losing streaks, but you have told me two have. One actually won a game in that. It's going to take a lot to win this game in Baltimore, given the way the Ravens are playing. At the same time, they've had success against them. And go back to that first game where Derrick Henry was really not that much of a factor, given what you expect from him. He had 1,900 yards this season. But in that game, there's an early fumble that Nick Herbig forced, and it really kind of changed the way that game unfolded. Second time around, it was a different story. He got cranking, and you're talking about making it 3rd and long as opposed to 3rd and 2 or 3, which is a tough one when you have two people like Jackson and Henry, who both can hit you different ways at 3rd and short.
Yeah, and I think another difference from the first to second one was the number of penalties that the Ravens had.
Yes.
Highly penalized that first one. And I think the turnover culture and what the Steelers defense has been known to do has not been doing during the 4-game losing streak as much. We clearly saw some of that, a holding penalty, get rid of one of TJ Watt's against the Bengals, but that is something that we're just used to seeing in terms of getting the ball back out of the hands of Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrows, those guys to give it back to the Steelers offense. But then when they are not able to get points, it's, you're in that conundrum of where it feels like nothing's going right. I do think they do know how to play Lamar in them, but Derrick Henry is a huge difference. As you said, the first meeting, making him not a major part of what they were doing offensively. And then the second one, he was just wearing them down into the second half. The big 41-yarder he had later in the game, and that's what he's capable of doing, wearing you down, but also being a home run hitter at the same time. So two guys you have to pay attention to, along with the fact that, their receiving core, Mark Andrews coming on late in the season, in terms of production and finding the end zone. So it will be an interesting one, to say the least.
Yeah, and the Steelers, as you see in this video here, doing a good job against Cincinnati in the run game, which almost led Cincinnati, I think, to go to a de facto, run game, which was their short passing game. They used a lot of it in that game. And that's another thing, we talk about the Ravens. Justice Hill, I'm not sure what his status is because he was injured in the game here in Pittsburgh, has a concussion, didn't play last week. He's one of those guys that you have to really watch for if he should play. And of course, there's injuries to Zay Flowers, who's I don't know if he's going to play or not play. He's week to week, we'll see. But that's a big loss if he doesn't play, because beyond him and Bateman, they don't have all that much in the receiving core.
Yeah, for Zay Flowers to be the first Ravens wide receiver to make a Pro Bowl, kind of speaks to that. But agree, that's a huge injury that he sustained. And as you said, they don't start practice. I guess they'll start tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So we'll be able to kind of, pay attention to that throughout the week. So again, it's an intriguing matchup. You never, when these two teams meet for the third time, for the Steelers, they're 3-1 in those matchups, but all of the playoff games have been here in Pittsburgh.
Right.
So this is the first one that will be down in Baltimore. What that environment is going to be like, what it's like even for a Sunday 1:00 game, let alone a playoff game where they feel like they have that team that can make it to the Super Bowl and on home turf.
Yeah, but the Steelers know how to play that. And I was wondering what the Baltimore fan base would think about this matchup, because there could have been a number of people going to Baltimore. Instead, they get the Steelers, of all things, right off the bat. So while I think people up here will say, who follow this rivalry, well, the Steelers have a way of neutralizing at times Lamar Jackson, I'm curious what people in Baltimore would say, because they know that as well. Although they're playing, like I said, at a totally different level right now. And I think the Henry signing was one of the best signings of this offseason. He and Barkley both have given so much to their respective teams and made a difference in how they play football.
Yeah, I mean, could have been the Steelers, could have been Jim Harbaugh's team, what they've been able to do. So I really don't think Ravens fans care. I think they have that team, and it doesn't matter how they have to go through it, that they know that hopefully for them, they'll end up where they want to be. But I think maybe Pittsburgh, not the team necessarily, just because the two teams do know each other so well. Will be interesting to see. So.
Well, let me ask you real quick before we go to break. Normally in this game, you expect a one-possession kind of game. I think we've seen that in both these games until the pick six, as I said, with Marlon Humphrey the other day in that game. But would you expect low scoring or higher scoring? Because I got to believe that it's going to be higher scoring than what we're used to. There's a time where we're talking about 9-6, 13-9, those kinds of games. I don't know that we're going to get that kind of game.
Yeah, I think prior to the last meeting in Baltimore, it was 8 straight games where neither team scored 20 points, which is what we are accustomed to. I do feel like I haven't really looked at the weather. I'm sure it's not great. It's probably really cold like it is here in Pittsburgh, but probably somebody is going to go over 20 to win this one for sure.
We'll talk more about the matchup coming up. It's the Ravens and the Steelers wild card weekend, Saturday at 8 o'clock, and that's going to be a big game. A lot of people focused in on that one. We'll continue our discussion about this game and what Mike Tomlin had to say earlier today right here on a Tomlin Monday, getting you set for the playoffs.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era. I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. Hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Wait, your T?
So much attention this week of, to wanting to win this game with the extra day rest. How disappointing and or concerning is it to not get it done?
You look at these games, it comes down to, 5 to 10 plays, and when we don't execute, there's nobody to blame but ourselves.
What were you able to do better as the game went along as opposed to those first 2 drives? What was problematic in the first 2 drives that you figured out later?
Just a lot of quick passes, and you couldn't really, get our pressure home a lot early on. We got our hands up. I thought coverage was a lot better as the game kept going, and we got a turnover. We were able to keep them out of the end zone multiple times, and as the game kept going on, I thought we played better.
You feel like you ironed out some of those communication issues that could help you going into next week?
Yeah. I thought, from a communication standpoint on defense, a lot of guys took ownership over it and over-communicate with that. Week in and week out, you're going to be tested. Different things happen, but I like how we, as things progressed in the game, we adjust, we correct, and you're not always going to be perfect, but I thought we made some adjustments.
Is it as simple as going into the postseason and just flipping the switch, and you're confident you could turn things around?
I'm confident. I'm sorry, I don't have the energy behind this, but I'm very.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
Like we talked about last time we came together, I've seen a tremendous sea change in some of the things that they're doing over the second half of the year. It looks very familiar. We talked about Dean Pease, man, and his inclusion in their efforts and how it has impacted their efforts, and it's very evident, to be quite honest with you. They remain aggressive schematically, but they do so while being prudent. They're using a lot of bogus pressure, and that's a signature of Dean Pease football.
All right, welcome back. Bob Pompiani, Missy Matthews with you, and Dean Pease and his fingerprints on the game plan, because they do have a young defensive coordinator. Mike Tomlin says it's been significant, and I think you see what they've done ever since their bye week especially. It came at a good time for them late in the season. They've been stingy about giving up yards, points. They've made turnovers. It's a totally different thing, and I think because of it, guys like Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey have been very, very active.
Right, you think of the pick six in Baltimore that Russell Wilson threw right after Micah Fitzpatrick finally gets his first interception in a few years to give them the ball back. That's really where things started, going south in that game that felt like both teams were still in it. And they have been very active in terms of their turnover culture, to borrow a phrase that the Steelers defense and Mike Tomlin talk about when referring to themselves. And it has been significant. So it's something that the Steelers offense is clearly cognizant of. They've experienced it already in the second matchup. So it's something that needs to be cleaned up. And for the Steelers offense, being able to work together and to score points, something that has not been, happening during this 4-game losing streak. You go back to the game in Cincinnati, week 13, it's crazy to think that they put up that many yards and that many points to then get to this point where it feels like you're barely able to engineer any success.
Yeah, it makes me wonder about the game plan coming in this against this Ravens defense. You may try to run. They like to try to run, but I don't think you want to run on first down 12 straight times. And I also think if you look at when the Steelers were really so-called cooking under Russell Wilson, it was when they were throwing the ball down the field. I don't know if I'd stay away from that. I'd try to maybe use that a lot more, especially early in the game. Just test to see what they're going to do in the secondary. You never know what you're going to get, including penalties, which, of course, the Ravens took a lot of here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and I think you have to trust your guys that they're going to bounce back.
Yes.
Coach Tomlin talking about George Pickens, 6 targets, 1 catch, 0 yards against the Bengals. Not what you expect. I know he did miss those 3 games before returning to the lineup, but some of those drops or non-catches are plays that we are so used to seeing George Pickens make. So it's disappointing to see that because, if you can get 1 or 2 of those to go your way, it could significantly change the outcome of a game. Cam Hayward, has preached after each of these losses that it feels like when you go back, there's a 5 to 10 play collection that you can say turn the tide of the game. And it's something that number has to continue to be minimized, especially if you want to stay alive in a single elimination tournament.
Another thing I saw later in the game, didn't see early, was Pat Freiermuth's inclusion. I thought that's a guy who needs to be targeted quite a bit. I think even early in games, they have 2 tight ends down there. Freiermuth is perfectly capable of getting targeted a lot and making big plays. I know they had one go through his hands at the end of this game that might have given them a shot at a long field goal, but still, he's central to what they do, and I think middle of the field can be very, very productive for them if they should use it.
Yeah, and I think, too, that play didn't go their way, but would they have time to clock it and get the field goal unit out there? How would that have happened? Again, you wish you had that chance to figure it out and maybe have Chris Boswell kick one of the longest field goals of his career. But, yes, agree. Sometimes it feels like, there's plays where Pat Freiermuth is open and maybe Russell Wilson isn't seeing him, but agree that, giving him a chance to impact the game, especially in the middle of the field, like you said, could be significant. And then, as you said, less predictable in terms of first down and running the ball.
To use a Mike Tomlin-ism, it's an all hands on deck in this one. They need everything they can get to beat the Ravens, who are 9.5-point favorites this Saturday night. We'll be back with more of our coverage right here on a Tomlin Monday on the south side of Pittsburgh.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
That you guys got, it seemed like you were on chase on that play. Can you break down how that happened and how it turned into a turnover for you guys?
Yeah, I just film studying, knowing the type of formation, seeing him right there, I knew it was going to be him trying to square me up and option me. So I wasn't supposed to, but I played it like that because I knew what was going on. So that was that simple, and Beanie made a great job seeing the quarterback coming back and get the ball.
You guys talked about, challenging yourselves this week against an offense like this. Do you feel like the defense did a lot more what you're supposed to do to be a good football team at this stage?
I think we took a step in the right direction. I don't think it was as good as it needed to be, obviously. It's plays out there for us to go make. We just got to go make those. But I definitely think we took a step in the right direction.
Where does this team have to get itself together? 4 games, losing streak, heading into what you're in the playoffs next week.
Yeah, next week is 0-0. Everybody should cancel out. So at that point, we want to go home. All that seeding and all that stuff don't matter. Home field advantage, whatever the case may be, don't matter. It's we want to go home. So that's how I look at it, and I can't wait.
It seemed like early Burrow was trying to get rid of the ball really fast. You guys make an adjustment to that, get some more up the middle pressure on him?
Yeah, that's what we figured. And it's just sometimes it's the game that you got to play, given with the guys that they got. So we definitely made adjustments. We definitely did things that could help out. I think it's just one of those type of games, and I think next time if we play them again, we'll be able to capitalize on those type of plays and just be better on our part.
You're encouraged by those adjustments in the sense that they scored a touchdown on the first possession and then they didn't get the end zone the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's stuff that we understood all week, and I think that's one of the things. Like I said, we took a step in the right direction. I think we just got to start faster. Just understand the formations, understanding guys in certain places and stuff, and just being able to go make plays.
Corey had a real tough assignment. What do you say to a young guy who gives up a touchdown early like that in a game like that?
He's going against the best in the world, and that's what comes with this job.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era. I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Wait, you're T?
I'm certainly open to utilizing Justin. He has an awesome skill set. We've done some of that in the past. We've done less of it in recent weeks. He experienced an injury or so a couple of weeks back that slowed some of that. But certainly in an effort to win this game, I am open to any combination or combinations of the division of labor in an effort to do so. And so I'm certainly open to that as we develop plans this week.
Mike Tomlin talking about Justin Fields, who did not get a snap in that game against Cincinnati. And quite frankly, I was a little bit surprised there, especially how tough it was to get yards in the run game, number one, but also right before halftime when Mike Tomlin decided to go for it. 4th and 1, you got to get that yard. That's where he seems to be most, in a position to make a difference, and he wasn't in there. I was surprised by that. Were you surprised as well?
Yeah, I think especially because it appeared that the abdominal injury was kind of past him.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the emergency quarterback. He was the backup once again since getting hurt in that Philly game. So I did expect to see him at some point, no matter if it was a few snaps, a handful, whatever. But agree, in certain circumstances, it would have made sense, at least from our standpoint, to insert him in there and make the team, figure out what he was going to do in terms of using his legs, handing it off, throwing, whatnot. And hopefully that's something, as Coach said, they're very open to doing whatever it takes to win this ball game. And I think in Baltimore, that's a guy you probably want to utilize in some form or fashion.
Yeah, you got to have somewhat of a package for him just in case and on standby if you need it, especially in those short yardage situations where the run game hasn't generated a lot. But also, again, I look down the field. I want to see more opportunity down the field. I think after 3/4 of the game against Cincinnati, we're only like 51 yards passing, only 8 attempts.
Right.
A lot of running, not passing. And when this team was doing well in the middle of this season, when Russell Wilson came in there, they went down the field quite a bit. Now, it helps that people hold on to the balls. We saw Mike Williams with a really nice toe tap catch right there. They have guys who can make plays. They just got to make plays when they're given the opportunity. That was a good play.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a 3rd and very long to be able to not have to, go 3 and out, get rid of the ball, something that we're seeing far too often. And I think, too, in terms of what Coach Tomlin had said when asked about Russell Wilson and how do you evaluate him during the 4-game losing streak, he said it's not just Russ, but the offense spotty at best. And it's true. It's all of them. And a lot of people obviously can help change it, but it's something where a number of people have to be able to make those routine plays routinely, as you have said, and as we've heard Coach say, not only after the loss to the Bengals, but again today as well.
The other thing we have to see more of is a better offensive line play when it comes to taking some of the pressure off Russell Wilson. I know in that game last week, Dan Moore had his hands full with Trey Hendrickson, who I think is going to win a Defensive Player of the Year based on his season, or at least he should be in that conversation. I think 17.5 sacks, but a guy like that you have to account for, and I don't know that they did a lot of that. But in this game coming in Baltimore, they got to make sure Russell Wilson has time to look down the field and make those plays and go through his progressions, because if he can be on target with a lot of this stuff, and they need it.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes, the chicken or the egg, which comes first in terms of, Russell Wilson sometimes holding on to the ball just a little bit too long, that kind of gets them into trouble, or when he goes out and it's either throw it away, take the sack, lose yards. They have to play smart and clean football. We talk about, not hurting yourself with penalties, but also not putting yourself in a situation where you're making it worse for the offense to try to get that first down, to move the ball, and to hopefully find the end zone.
Yeah, the one thing is going to be special teams, another key component. Lately, the Steelers special teams have had some issues there. Although they did make Connor Hayward made a nice play in recognizing that ball hit off a Cincinnati player, and for him to keep himself in bounds was pretty incredible here. And it was potentially a turning point of the game. They were down 19-14, as you saw here, and it really didn't result in the kind of touchdown that you wanted to see on a short field.
No, definitely a heads-up play for sure. And, even just being able to give Boz more chances. Somebody that has been very automatic and so good this entire season. So, it's complimentary football. We talk about it all the time. It truly is that. But, yeah, agree. This was a great play by Connor Hayward, as you said, especially to be able to keep himself in bounds. And to note it, that's very minute. Obviously, he was on the right side of it, but I don't think many people realized it at the time.
Yeah, but it resulted in a Boswell field goal, and that leads us to this. You have Tucker and Boswell. Tucker seems to have regained some of his form in terms of field goal and extra points. He went through a stretch there where he was not very good, but they stuck with it. Of course you would. He's one of the best kickers of all time. That will be an interesting thing if it comes down to field goals in games like this.
Well, hopefully, because it's the playoffs and there's so much on the line, maybe that gets back into his head in terms of his execution, because that's something you don't want to lose by a field goal if that's how it's going to go down, if you're the Baltimore Ravens, and as you said, have stuck by him. I do think, though, some of the games that they've been in, it hasn't been this pressure cooker. The one in Pittsburgh where it's 6 field goals by Chris Boswell, and he missed 2 that day. So I don't know. I'm hopeful, and I have the most trust in Boz for sure.
All right, I suspect it's going to be a tight game. That's the way these two teams have historically played it. We'll see how it goes on Saturday night. Back with more after this, right here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor Museum.
Now this is the best era. I couldn't agree more. Those teams were unstoppable.
The teams were really good in the 90s.
Come on, you couldn't catch those teams of the 2000s. Literally.
The 70s were the best.
No way, the 2000s.
Whoa, stop fighting. I think every era was pretty sweet.
You said it, kid. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Wait, your T?
Kyle, how frustrating has these last 4 games been for you guys?
Yeah, very frustrating. But we got to move on and focus on the playoffs and the single elimination tournament. Put good stuff on film. We just need to, execute better, and then go into the playoffs.
Can this be easily reset? I know Russ talked about having amnesia going into this game earlier this week. Is that? Can you guys?
Yeah, we can reset for sure. Whatever happened in the regular season happened in the regular season. We just need to focus on the playoffs now and do whatever we can to beat whoever we play.
What do you guys need to fix offensively going into these playoffs?
Execution, taking care of the ball, catching footballs, stuff that we do routinely. Just got to make those plays.
In those last 2 drives, obviously after the fumble on the punt return and then that last drive, what went wrong on those 2 drives where you guys couldn't capitalize and take the lead?
Just not execution based. You got to take what the defense has given us, and then we just got to execute better.
What changed on the drive that you guys scored the touchdown to allow you guys to move the ball just a little better, and what you see on the touchdown catch?
Execution, and it was a great ball by Russ.
Does it feel weird that you're still in the dance, but ending this season on a 4-game slide? How do you kind of reconcile
No, we earned the opportunity to go in the postseason. It sucks that we lost these last 4 games, but we earned that right. We wrapped it up earlier in the year. Obviously, we wish things went differently the last 4 games, but you know, the ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl, and you know, we put ourselves in the right step to, you know, get in that direction by making the playoffs.
Were you guys paying attention to the Ravens game before this at
No.
all, and are you going to watch tomorrow?
No.
Can you put your finger on the slow starts? What's been going on?
Just execution.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
All right, before we close out this Tomlin Monday, getting ready for the wild card round. Steelers heading to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Injuries seems to be pretty good. Cam Hayward, as he told us after the game, dealing with the flu. He got the day off today. Coach Tomlin keeping him at home to recover, not get anybody else sick. Mason McCormick broke his hand in that game. We saw Spencer Anderson fill in for him. They're going to fit him for a brace or a cast, see how that does in practice, if he'll be able to go. And also Dante Jackson, who missed the game against the Bengals with that back injury that keeps popping up. Coach said today he feels good, so hopefully he's able to go.
Yeah, he needs to be in there. Just again, all hands on deck in a game like this. Again, Ravens and Steelers Saturday night. Steelers looking to end this 4-game losing streak, and what better place to do it in a place they've had success in Baltimore. That's going to wrap it up for Missy Matthews. I'm Bob Pompiani. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next week as we talk about round 2 of the playoffs. Have a good week ahead.